So we've defined a layout with a button on it, but we need to write some code that says what to do when the button gets clicked on. Well, the way we do this in Android is that we create a class, an inner class typically, that's going to be a listener for a button click event. So we use event handling code, typically defined as inner classes, to listen for events in Android. So with the button, these things trigger on-click events. And so if you want to listen for those events, you need to implement the Onclicklistener Interface that is part of the View class. And so you need to build a class. In this case, it looks like it's called MyListener. It implements the View.OnClickListener interface, and it defines inside of its method, inside of its class curly braces here, the method onClick. The onClick method returns back nothing, so it returns void, but it does take a view as the argument. That view is a reference to the component that was clicked on, the button that was clicked on. That allows you to have one handler be registered with lots of different buttons potentially, because you could just query which view it was that was clicked on and based on that determine what to do. In our case, we have a single button that we'll register our handler with. So we need to define a class. Again, usually this is an inner class, doesn't have to be, but usually is. Implement view.onClickListener, provide the onClick method, and then inside that method put in whatever code you want to have occur when that button gets clicked on. Well, we need to associate that listener class or an instance of that class back with the button itself. So in our code, we need to get a hold of a reference to the button. To do that, we call the findViewById method. This method is defined in the activity class, the class that we extend. So our class extends activity, therefore we have access to that method. It's coming from that superclass. And when we call that method, we pass in, let me zoom in even further here, r.id dot and then some name. This is where some magical stuff happens. Remember on the previous page, we had defined a name for our button. We called our button Say Hello. We defined an ID, I should say, for the button. We called it Say Hello. And so we need to do a lookup using that ID. So r.id dot, in our case, it's going to be r.id dot say hello. This r.id dot my button is just a little bit more of a generic kind of example. But specific to what we typed in, it's right here. What's this R thing all about? Well, the R class is a generated class. Under gen, we have r.java. And for every kind of thing that we've created, every ID that we have out there, we have some sort of a value associated with it, some sort of an int that it generates here. And so there's that say hello one. And so behind the scenes, it connects all the pieces together as necessary so that we can do a lookup, a find view by ID, give it the ID that we're looking for based on the value in the R class, and it gives us back a reference to an object that we can downcast to be of type, in this case, of type button. Well, now that we have the button, we can call setOnClickListener. That associates an instance of our listener class with that button. So we create a new instance of the MyListener, and we pass that in as an argument to setOnClickListener. Well, that's the kind of code that we're going to be having you enter into your activity here in the next few moments. We're going to have you add a couple extra imports because we're going to make use of the View class since that has the OnClickListener interface in it. And also there's several things from that widget package we're going to make use of. And so, so we'll just import that with an asterisk, import everything in there. For example, things in the widget would be button and edit text and text view, things like that. In our onCreate method, we're going to add a couple extra lines of code. We're going to go and do the lookup to find the button. And we're also going to do the setOnClickListener. So we're going to associate our listener with the button. Well, that listener is something defined as an inner class just right down below In this case, the onClick method has several lines of code. And those lines of code, let's read through them here. The first thing we've got is, what do we have here? We're doing a find view by ID again. We're saying go out and retrieve the edit text. That's the box that they can type their name into. We're also going to retrieve the text view. So we want to get back both the edit text and the text view. We want references to those. Same find view by ID that we used for the button. Same method call, but now different IDs we're passing in. Now we have references to each of those components, and we're going to ask the edit text for the text content inside of it. So whatever they typed in, we want that information. We'll retrieve that back as a string by calling toString on the getText method. So that's whatever name they typed in. And then we'll simply do a setText on the text field to take their name and append it after the word hello. The existing file, the activity as it stands right now, has a little something extra for onCreate options menu. We're not going to use that here, and so we're just going to eliminate that and eliminate the import associated with it. So in your case, you'll take this file, hello android activity.java. It's under com example and hello android under the, actually it's under the source, com example hello android, that Java file. Add a couple imports and then add in some content to both the onCreate and a whole new inner class for this MyButtonListener. So on your system, please do this. Please type this code in. When you're done typing it in, we'll have an opportunity to run it as well. Actually, I'm going to pause the video, I'll type it in, and I'll come right back to you with my results. Okay, well, I did all the typing here, and so I have now inside of my code, my activity, the couple of extra imports. I have the lookup for the button in onCreate, and I've also called the set Onclicklistener. By the way, onCreate is called immediately after the activity is created, and so that's a good place to do things like registering listeners. I also have the inner class down below, and every time that button gets clicked on, the onClick method gets called, and we're retrieving the edit text and the text view and using the text that's in the edit text to update the text view with a little hello message. So now that all that's in place, I want to make sure everything's saved. So I'm going to click on a Save All here, and I'll then do another run on this application. So fingers crossed, we should, in our emulator, if I can find it, here's my emulator back here, we should have this application deploying to it. We'll see what comes of this. Normally it takes just a bit. Oh, here it comes. So, it's looking good. Okay, so we have ourselves our Hello Android application. It says, please enter your name. That was the hint that we had before. I'll type in my name, Jamie here. I'll click on Say Hello. That calls the listener. The listener retrieves the text from the edit text field and puts that after hello and displays that in the text the text view. And so we now have hello Jamie. So a little bit more interesting maybe than what we had before. Again, please do this on your systems. Please take the time, enter in this code, and once you save it off, go ahead and do a run and try that out.